Welcome to another edition of the Red Pill Diaries. We are your hosts, Rashid, and we thank you for joining us on another edition of the most powerful platform for truth and empowerment in anywhere in any day. I'm hearing a lot of feedback here. So hold on one second, everyone. Give me a second. Um,
I don't hear anything.
okay. I think I've solved it. I have my technician in the background. Yes, I told you. If it was left
Great to have a technician, brother. Great to have a
brother, my
technician.
son and my daughters, brother, I tell you what, um, you know
I
how we are,
understand. I
brother.
got sons and daughters as technician too.
Yeah. So we're gonna this edition of the Red Pill Diaries. And as you all see, I don't have my headpiece on. We were having a lot of feedback in the headpiece also, so I decided to take the headpiece off and try to just go through the speaker of the computer. So I want to get into something immediately about what's going on in the hypocrisy of the Western world. Okay, um, there is an article out, and I'm not gonna. I may put it on the screen in a second. Matter of fact, let me try it. Give me 1 second, and I will put it on the screen as we're talking, as we go to it. And I'm gonna read. I'm gonna put the article up, and then I'm gonna read. Let's see. Let's see if they moved it. Isn't that something? They moved the article. Uh, Now that we're talking about it, they moved the article off the screen. Hold on 1 second, because this is very important. But I have it on this screen, on the other computer screen, so it doesn't matter if they moved it. Okay, we can still read it. Let's see what it says. All right, let me let me pull it up. I believe I can put it up through a search because this has everything to do with the hypocrisy that we were talking about yesterday. All right. And it's vital and it's very important for you to see the contempt that the Western world has for the non-Western world. And it is built in arrogance, hubris, racism, and entitlement. All right. Here it is right here. Okay, there we are. I knew if I could just remember the title of it, I could get the article. So let me pull it up on the screen here. Let's see. Is it uh, let's see, share screen? This is very important, so you guys stay with us. Uh, uh, Here we are, right here. Share, and I'm going to read it off my other screen. Okay. Did it? Can you see it?
No, sir.
Rashid, can you see it?
It's coming up now.
It should pop up.
Yeah, I can
Okay,
see
okay.
it. I can see it.
Uganda
Uganda
bless.
blast US.
Listen, you
Go ahead.
okay? Uganda bless EU hypocrisy over pipeline spat. Okay, that's very important. The reason I brought this up is because we just had a pipeline sabotage by NATO with the Russian pipeline that was going into Europe feeding off gas because America is trying to um, continue her hegemonic ways, and she's trying to limit Russia's currency and Russia's income, and at the same time, uh, make Europe more dependent on American gas. And at the same time, the European leaders are so stupid and so arrogant and so racist that they go along with this for extra couple of dollars and an extra couple euros to put in their pockets. And the whole world knows that the blast was done by uh, what is it? Old Joe, right? Old Joe's troops, right? As a matter of fact, let's listen to this. Let's see if we can bring this up. Um, Let me try to find a clip for you about this right here. Who destroyed the European pipeline? And this is very important because what we're seeing is a geopolitical war, a resource war going global. You understand? And it connects, it shows you what's going on in Europe and what's going on in Africa, and how Europe believes that they have the right to tell Africa what to do. They still believe that Africa and African nations are their colonial subjects. And in some cases, they are. But Africa is breaking free, and this is something that Europe cannot do. Therefore, America and NATO has pushed the influx of these made-up Western-backed terror groups all across the resource and strategically rich areas of Africa. That is very important because this plays right into what we're talking about with Ukraine, Russia, America, and the global South. Okay, so I'm going to play a clip for you, and after the clip, we're going to come back to this article and we're going to read the arrogance of Europe concerning Africa and the hypocrisy. Okay, and remember that Europe is interfering in Uganda's and another African nation's internal affairs and their sovereign policies, right? And remember that Uganda was one of the nations that stood up and said an attack on Russia is an attack on that nation. Okay? It's very, very vital. Nobody is connecting these points, but we're going to show it to you because we know that this is vital for any and everybody, whether you're black, white, brown, red, yellow, purple, green, orange, or polka dots. This affects everybody. Okay? So listen, we're going to go back to a clip I played earlier. Be patient. Okay?
With regard to Nord Stream 2, we continue to have very strong and clear conversations with our German allies, and I want to be clear with you today. If Russia invades Ukraine, one way or another, Nord Stream 2 will not move forward.
If Russia invades, that means tanks or troops crossing the border of Ukraine again. Then there will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
How will you do that exactly, since the project and control of the project is within Germany's control?
We will, I promise you, we'll be able to do it.
As you know, energy is the cash cow that enables these kinds of military deployments. So Putin needs the energy to flow as much as the consumers need it. But more broadly, we have been counseling Europe for almost a decade now to reduce its dependence on Russian energy.
Today, we are also dealing with an act of sabotage. We do not know the details of what happened yet, but we can clearly see that it is an act of sabotage, an act that probably marks the next stage in the escalation of the situation we are dealing with in Ukraine.
The Washington Post got right to it. Putin, they declared, is now weaponizing the Nord Stream pipelines. According to the Canadian ambassador to the UN, Vladimir Putin has decided to use, quote, pollution as an act of war.
As you all know, these pipelines weren't pumping gas into Europe at this time. NS2 was never operational, as you guys know. NS1 has not been operational for weeks because Putin has weaponized energy, and we have said this many times before. This just drives home the importance of our efforts to work together to get alternative gas supplies to Europe and to support efforts to reduce gas consumption and accelerate true energy independence by moving to clean energy economy.
But we should tell you that, maybe not coincidentally, today a brand new pipeline was unveiled, a pipeline that carries non-Russian natural gas in roughly the same area as Nord Streams 1 and 2. This is called the Baltic Pipe. It was inaugurated in Poland. It will carry natural gas from Norway through Denmark to Poland and other countries nearby. And it's likely to do very well since now it has less competition.
So, did you hear Joe Biden? He said, if Russia invades Ukraine, that would be the end of the pipeline. He said, we will bring this to an end. And then when the reporter pushed him on it, he said, mark my words, we have our ways. And then a week before that, NATO did war drills right over the area where the pipeline blast took place, right? Following that, the day before the pipeline blast, I believe it was the day drones or underwater drones flew over the pipeline. Are these coincidences? And then next thing you know, boom, right? So there's a sabotage. First of all, this is a highly intricate um, uh, plot. I would say it's highly intricate, and it goes directly to the Uganda blast. And I'm gonna connect it in just a second, but I want to show you the intricacies of this. Immediately when the blast took place, a former Polish politician thanked America for bringing down the pipeline, and then he later quickly deleted the tweet. Right now, Poland has it seems like they have hatred towards Russia. Okay, and also Poland feels that it should be the number one economy in Europe. So they are going along with it because they want to help to deindustrialize the fools in Germany who are helping to pull down their own economy, right? So that they can take uh, Germany's position as the number one economy because they feel like Germany should be
Subservient to
subjugated to
them.
them. That's right. And on top of all of that, that's why they're trying to cozy so much up to the United States and are asking for nuclear weapons to be placed there, asking for more U.S. and NATO troops to be there because they want to take Germany's place, and the fools in Germany don't see it. But what we're seeing is the breakup of the Western world. What I'm trying to get to you, and with the breakup of the unity, the reason Europe and America was so dominant is because they were able to divide all of the other countries around the world at the same time, regardless of what differences they had. They still had a unified front against everybody else, and they were able to subject other nations by the divide and conquer politics, and then siphon off the resources. Now, this is very important. Look at this. The headline of this article: Uganda blasts EU's hypocrisy amid pipeline spat. Okay, now as I'm going to be looking this way, I guess, because no, this way, on my other computers, because I want to read something to you on this thing. This is what, and it has the map and everything. So let me see if I can bring that map up just a little bit uh, for you guys. Okay, see if I can bring it up a little bit for you guys on the screen. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Now I'm going to read this article, part of the article. It says Uganda and Tanzania are completing preparations for the construction of a massive 1,440-kilometer um, oil pipeline. Stop right there. They did this outside of Western approval. They did this outside of asking Westerners would they fund this? Would they help them with this? This is very, very important. Go ahead. Go ahead. Say what you have to say.
Remember what happened to Egypt, Tunisia, and Libya when they did something outside of the Western authorization.
Mm-hmm.
They wouldn't destroy those three countries.
Yes. And now look, it says Uganda and Tanzania are completing preparations for the construction of a massive 1,440-kilometer oil pipeline, which will take crude oil from fields in Lake Albert to Tanzania's Tanga Indian Ocean port. Stop right there. Why is that very important? Because America and Europe feels that China or Russia could use that Indian Ocean port to bypass Russian warships. I mean, U.S. warships, U.S. plans for war, U.S. plans to hold the world captive to the threat of seizing the waterways. I'm telling you, it's very important. Listen to this. It says European officials have demanded, not asked, but demanded. Let's see what this means right here. Give me a second. Because it's very important that you understand the language that is spoken to the people, okay? Because if you don't understand the intent of something, you really can't get the crux of the message, okay? So let's see something. And we're going to look up something. Demanded. According to the dictionary, Demanded is the past tense of demand. It means acts authoritatively, of, and it says to order, to command, to tell, to call on, to urge, right? This is very, very important. So the first part is to order, to command, okay, to tell. So I'm telling you what you should and should not do. Now, remember, America and Europe are talking about Russia's disregarding the sovereignty of Ukraine, while Europe is ignoring the sovereignty of these nations right here and demanding that they stop something that is vital to their national interests, because Europe thinks it's a threat to Western dominance and Western plans to uh, dominate the oil and gas markets. This is very important. You haven't heard anybody talking about this, but it is very important, and it's connected directly to what's going on with Russia, America, NATO, and Ukraine. So it goes further. And it says, European Union officials have demanded that the project be scrapped. Listen what they use. Listen what they use. Citing environmental, climate, and human rights concerns. Aren't those the same things that they use, minus the so-called right to respond or right to protect, and the so-called democracy thing that they use to justify vilifying, sanctioning, and then eventually waging military war against nations? Aren't those same things that they use? So they use these things to try to go forth in a moral way. So the people will say, "Oh, I can get that they should." We're already suffering climate change. We're already suffering um, uh, the environmental crisis of our lifetimes. And besides, this pipeline can be built with in violation of human rights, right? Isn't that something that they use that? But let's go a little further, because now from this point on, I'm reading for the rest of it for the first time with you all. Okay, Brussels' campaign of diplomatic pressure on Uganda and Tanzania aimed at stopping the East African crude oil pipeline amounts to pure hypocrisy and constitutes an attempt by the wealthy countries to keep developing nations down. Ellison Kirhanga, a member of Uganda's Chamber of Mines and Petroleum, has said, unlike wealthy nations, which will remain wealthy even when their oil and their gas revenue is removed, we cannot afford to gamble the future of Ugandan generations on hypotheticals. Uh, Karu Karuhanga, I think that's how you pronounce his name. I'm sorry if I'm butchering it, but hold on. This says sentiments echoed comments made by Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni last month, with the president slamming EU politicians seeking to meddle in Uganda and Tanzania's affairs as insufferable, shallow, and egocentric. Stop right there. So we read this now. Now, mind you, did Africa put pressure on Europe to stop Nord Stream, Turk Stream, Nord Stream 2? I'm asking, because those were environmental hazards, right? And we're seeing with the threat of war, those actually become even more vital to the security of the global uh, architecture, because it can escalate into a thermonuclear war. Rashid, before I go any further, do you have anything to chime in on?
And once again, this is the master talking to his slaves. I tell you what to do, and you better do it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, right? That's all it is. Is I'm going to tell you what you bet not do, and if you don't do it, I'm going to come in and kill you. That's exactly what they're talking about here. Yeah. He's got all of this stuff. It show you that the hypocrisy that's baked in his DNA.
Mm-hmm.
Let me put it to you like this. He's clamoring that Iran better not give Russia a slingshot to help with the war. But
Right.
aren't you giving Ukraine everything, including the kitchen sink? Yeah, but that's me. I'm entitled to do stuff like that. But if you throw a rock against us, we're gonna sanction you, and the UN is behind. Everybody out there, the UN is worthless for anybody that's not a part of the clique of the West. They need to go and flush the UN down the commode where it belongs. It was set up as a Western organization to push the aims and purposes of Europe, Western Europe, but nobody else. So why in the world would you stay in an organization that condemns everything that you do and benefits your enemy? Have you noticed that the Russians are not calling the Western Europeans their colleagues anymore, right?
Right.
Our
Western
partners.
So look, and let's go. I want to show you the hypocrisy of this, because now we go to an article that was just published on October the 13th, right? Roughly a week ago, right? I'm going to show you the contempt that they have for everybody outside of their clique, okay? So this article is titled, Top EU Diplomat. We're talking about Joseph Borrell. Makes controversial jungle comparison. Now listen to this. If this doesn't show entitlement, hubris, arrogance, and racism, you tell me what does. Now remember what I just read to you all, the contempt that they have for the sovereignty of Uganda and Tanzania, okay? And all of this connects to what's going on in Ukraine, right? So it says Joseph Borrell urged future diplomats to protect Europe's garden, quote unquote. Listen, it's good. The European Union is a garden that has the best combination of political freedom, economic prosperity, and social cohesion ever known to humankind, and must be protected from the outside jungle. Yeah, listen to this. So they are calling, listen, the European Union, so we know they're talking about all of the members of that organization. But we also know that the United States has a observatory seat most of you didn't even know that, in the European Union. They vote with the Europeans. Do you know that? Which is crazy, right? But that shows you the link. And we know that Australia, Canada, and New Zealand are also considered what
do they call them? The first world countries.
Right.
Everybody else is second world country.
So now, if we consider this, New Zealand, Australia, Canada, the United States, and Europe, right? They say this is a garden, and it must be protected from the outside jungle. What is the outside jungle? Latin America, Africa, Asia, and the Caribbean, right? And the Pacific Isles. That is the global South. That is racist as hell, right? And it goes on and says, the article goes on to say this. That's according to EU's foreign policy chief, Joseph Borrell, who made the comparison while delivering a speech at the inauguration of a pilot university program designed to cultivate the next generation of European diplomats. Now, listen what he says. Addressing a group of students at the College of Europe in Bruges on Thursday, Borrell said, the rest of the world, now mind you, we established what the European architecture is. This is what he says. This comes out of his mouth, not mine, is. The rest of the world is not exactly a garden. Most of the rest of the world is a jungle. And the jungle could invade the garden. Hey, hold on, stop right there. Stop right there. That's when I told you guys on the last show and the show before last that the Western world, they're like Bizarro, right? And what we're in right now is bizarro world. And bizarro is the antithesis to Superman. And everything in Superman's world is reality. And everything in bizarro world is upside down and flipped backwards, okay? So there's not one African nation, there's not one Asian nation, there's not one Latin nation that is trying to invade Europe. But if you look, when we look at the Argentina situation, Britain is still occupying the island that belongs to Argentina and refuses to give it back to them, and even went to war with them. In this modern day, they still continue to hold colonial rule over a lot of the Caribbean islands. They what was it? It was 20 years ago, I believe, or maybe a little bit more, that Britain was forced to give back to Hong Kong because China was ready to go to war over it. 20 years ago. But they say the outside world is trying to invade Europe. And yet Europe continues to, the influx of military bases against the will of the North African nations. Now, listen to me, this is against their will. They are ignoring the sovereignty of these nations. But they're saying somebody is trying to invade. Now, I want you to pay close attention to what I'm saying because this is very important. Okay? The influx of refugees into Europe. Prior to this influx, Muammar Gaddafi gave a speech and told them that if you remove me, he said, you don't realize, and I'm paraphrasing, that I'm the barrier that's keeping an influx of refugees from invading Europe. He told them that. And if you remove me, if you kill me, if you bomb me, you'll see what I'm talking about. They killed him and they bombed him. Listen, Europe and America did not just kill Gaddafi. They bombed the governmental institutions which keeps nations viable as nation states. And that's why you see the chaos. And if you look at the other nations in North Africa, from France's rule, the Dutch rule, when they leave, they don't fully leave. And when they get mad, they destroy the leadership or the institutions which govern those nations. And then they get pissed or they get mad when there's an influx of refugees seeking something stable. Well, you destroy the stability. Don't you owe them that?
It reminds me like a group of wealthy, rich people, right, living in a guarded, guarded place, right, guarded.
Right.
And they mad at the little people out on the ground, right? Oh, there they. But the way you got your riches was off the backs of the little people.
That's right. And the way you keep your riches is off the
back of the little people.
And this is what's missing in the dialogue. See, this is what I'm saying. Oftentimes you hear me talk to the religious class, be they Muslim or Christian, and I give them inconvenient truths. We give them inconvenient truths. And then you hear me lambast black, brown, red, and yellow when it's necessary. But then you also have to be manning up to accept it when I'm lambasting irrational, unsound white policies, okay? Because we call an ace and a spade, and some people, as long as you can point and you can show other people their faults, it's okay. But when you start pointing at this next person, sometimes it's too hard for them to handle because in some people's mind, they don't realize that they are inculcated with that exceptionalism also. So again, he is talking about Europe being a jungle, and this fell off. And this, I have to show you something. I told you I have this, my back, I hurt my back, martial arts. So I have this on my back, the stimulation, the nose that shoot the electricity, you know. But again,
I got a bigger one, brother.
But this, hey, listen, this is just for when I'm doing like, you know, the shows and stuff. My back is killing me, but this thing is helping a lot. So again, okay, you destroy the governmental infrastructure, which keeps the cohesion of a nation and the viability of a nation. You go in and you start sectarian violence. There's an influx of of uh, of terrorism that you brought to them. France plays against, look, and this is something else, because this goes on in Libya right now, and it goes on in other places. So you have the UK, you have the US, you have France, you have Germany, you have a couple of other European nations. They go in there and they pretend to back a certain side, right? And all of these certain sides are divided against each other, and they play those against each other, and then they go and strike deals by giving them a few dollars and a few weapons. And but while these are distracted fighting each other, France, the United States, Germany, the UK, and the US and other nations are extracting the mineral resources and the value. And then you get mad because these people are saying, listen, hold on. We're getting wise to this. What about our national security and the need of our people? That doesn't matter to them because it's not a part of the European garden, you see? Let's go a little further. It says, the rest of the world is not exactly a garden. Most of the rest of the world is a jungle, and the jungle could invade the garden. The gardeners should take care of it, but they will not protect the garden by building walls. He insists that Europeans have to be much more engaged with the rest of the world and put their privilege, listen to that, and put their privilege to good use. You understand? If that is not racist, arrogant, uh, and a lot of imperial hubris, you tell me what is. And now, when you look at this, because this came out on the 13th of this month, if you look at it and you compare it to what we just read about Uganda, you can see them. Because remember, in the article on Uganda, let me go back to that article on Uganda. It says, right here, it says that European Union officials have demanded, not asked, not consulted with, and then to try to see their side, but they demanded that these nations stop what is vital to their national interests because it does not benefit the garden. Man, these people are crazy as hell. They're crazy as hell.
Once again, they are the kings of this world. They set up a real good clique for themselves and their brothers, right?
Right.
That we only the ones that benefit for this, and everybody else, you can go get the hell with you. Yeah, you got to fend for yourself. And what you're saying is we're going to continue put war among everybody all around the planet until you stop me.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Russia have woken up. See, the people of the West don't, as we said before, they're going to consider you're a Russian European. You're some foreign, what do they call them? The orcs, right?
Yeah.
Or the Lord of the Rings. They're all orc people, They're not real. Even though the people of Russia sitting up there with blonde hair and blue eyes, more so than a lot of the Europeans, they don't consider them European. And then with this divide and conquer system that he got going, he can put one against the other. And once you do that, you divide the people, you control both parts once you set yourself up as a mediator. And that's what he's doing. He's got everybody else around the world buffaloed through this UN crap. Right?
Right. And listen, and why is this very important? And why is this connected to China? Why is this connected to Russia? Because China already has the Pakistani Gwadar port, right, where they can bypass what they call America's choke point on hydrocarbons in this route. See, because if war breaks out, America could choke off the ships that go and bring oil and gas to China. So China went through Pakistan, and now China can import oil and gas or export goods through that port there. Well, this is another port in the Indian Ocean, right? And so this gives China flexibility, but also these ports can also be used by, according to the signed agreements, by nations that are affiliated with China through the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So that means Russia too. And this is what is making them mad. This is what is making them mad. Because if this gets off, that means there's another route of oil or gas that's not being routed to Europe, but is being routed eastward. And they cannot handle that because it breaks their stranglehold. Now, listen, when Uganda said, because I want to bring you back to something. On maybe about 2-3 shows ago, we talked about Uganda. Reef Omar, he always comes with points. I'm gonna highlight his point in just a second. But we talked about Uganda, and the Ugandan general said that an attack on Russia would be an attack on Uganda. Within 24 hours, there was a huge outbreak of Ebola in Uganda. And Uganda is ground zero for U.S. biolabs in Africa. Do you think that was a coincidence? And then within 48 hours, 2 military helicopters crashed that was carrying military officers in Uganda. And now they're talking about there's a massive outbreak of Ebola and others in Uganda. Do you think that this is a coincidence? That's what I'm asking you.
What, the
go ahead and talk.
The empire deals in coincidences, don't they? One coincidence after they line them up, right? And then when they said they take their hidden hand and put it behind them and say, it wasn't us.
Yeah.
Once you know the empire, you know exactly what you. Once again, in the book of Revelation, last book of the Bible, it talks about Babylon the Great, the dominating power of that time in that end of this world, right? And she does all stuff. What she's doing is exactly what the empire and her Western cabal do to the planet. Their clique is meaningful. And everybody else, you don't matter. Only thing we need you to do is to stay in line and let us extract your natural resources so we can remain rich. And while you were poor, and then we go in and stir up all the kind of trouble, make all kind of war. When America was bombing up Libya, Iraq, Syria, had their little bitty puppets in Arabia bombing up Yemen, right? You heard the EU say it. They didn't say one word because it wasn't concerning to them. But the second Russia move on Ukraine, oh Lord, it's the biggest thing on the planet for everybody to be concerned. How dare they attack and take over a country? Well, wait a minute. Didn't you attack and try to take over 7 countries? But nothing is getting said in his media. I mean, the mainstream media is literally unwatchable. They like you said, a bizarro world. They like they're on a different planet when they reporting this crap that they got.
Mm-hmm. Arif Omar, he says, it is the gardeners invading the said jungle, which is absolutely right. They're talking about the jungle is invading the garden, but it is the gardeners that are invading the jungle because of the resources. And it says racism and hypocrisy at its finest. I concur.
And without the jungle, the garden wouldn't exist.
Right. And
if they couldn't go over and steal, remember, the garden has no natural resources. Well, the jungle has all of the natural resources, right?
Yeah. I already gave a good rundown of of the system that was built up. And it is, man, I'm telling you, this system, for those of you who don't know, this system, and for those of you who are joining us or who may have not seen the show before and will join us later, this is a system, capitalism, right? And this system that the U.S. and Europe benefits from is like Rashid say, three cars money. But let's check this out. All of the resources reside in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, right? But those areas of the world are considered poor or third world. You have Europe, America, Australia, and New Zealand. They have a money system, a money scheme. I wouldn't say a system. I say it's a scheme. It's a scheme. It's almost like, you know, that guy that's panhandling out there, that's drifting and stuff, trying to beat you out of your money, or like the crackhead that tries to beat you out of your money. Fast talking, and now the world is waking up to the fast talking of the crackhead, and they're saying, well, hold up, why? You know, the more I buy his treasuries, the more he wages war and threatens me. The more I do contracts with him so he can extract my resources, the stronger his economy and his military is. Hold on. Let me redirect some of my resources elsewhere so we can, by degrees, weaken this bully, and then we can show him that he is not what he thinks he is. So look, this is what they did. And now, for those of you who've heard me say this before, bear with me, because there's other people who haven't. So I have to say it. Europe and America made a system that should be looked at and be marveled at, to be honest with you, that so many people bought into this. I mean, so many people bought into this that you have to give them their credit for this now. You cannot just say, oh, the grifters. This system that they put in place is such a predatory system that the victims bought into being robbed. That's crazy, isn't it? So listen what it has. So they go and cut down trees at first, right? They get ink, put their people on the paper. They ascribe to it a denomination of value. Then they tell somebody, look, your resources is worth X amount of this. Now listen, they're doing it, they're giving the value to your resources now. And I'll stop for a minute. I just want you to think about this. What if you were to go into Walmart and now you see all Walmart prices up in there? You say, no, Walmart, I'm not paying for that. I believe it's worth $3. Now they got a TV set in there worth $500, and you going up to the cash register. I'm not paying them but $2 for it. And how quick do you think they will usher you out of that Walmart? But check it. So we have this paper with ink on it, with some face of a Western leader or something on it, and they ascribe to it a value, a denomination. Then they go to you and tell you, hey, I'll give you X amount of these for that. And then you say, They say, well, listen, if you use this, you can become a part of the system and you can enjoy the wealth and the benefits of the system. Oh yeah, man, I'm gonna build up my country. So as they extract the resources, they go and refine the resources, sell them back to you 10, 20, 30, 40 times what they bought it for from you, right? And then when you start questioning them on this matter, you say, oh, hold on. I just sold you that for $5. How in the world are you gonna sell it to me back to me at $200? And then they don't question me. So you say, you know what? Forget it. I'm going to get with my brother or my friend over here, and I'm going to start something else.
Who's a part of the system? Who's a part of the system now? Don't forget that.
Yeah. So now they say, so now you're dependent upon the system itself, the predatory system. You're dependent on it. So now you have this built up stock of paper with ink on it, and they assign the value of it. So now when you get on their bad side, they have your resources. They have contracts with your name on it to get this over here, right? They set up international law according to them. They set up international structure according to them. So now when you buck up against it, you know what? That's a violation of these laws. We will sanction you. Now the 400 billion that you have in paper and ink is no longer worth it, but it's still on their books. So they take they'll take it and issue some more money and give it to somebody else. And you're out of money, resources, time, and labor, and they're still sucking the resources out of other nations. Man, if that's not a ooh.
I remember a Muhammad Speaks newspaper when he had the Arabs had all these dollar bills in their closets.
And they went poof.
And they started disappearing on them. Poof, 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 poof.
See,
that's exactly what you are talking about.
This is what Russia is waking up to and finding. Because did you hear what Peskov, the Kremlin spokesman, said? He says the West is trying to legitimize the theft of $300 to $400 billion of Russian gold, currency, and assets. That's what is going on. Russia was fool enough to put part of their gold,
to buy into the system in the first place.
And now
you remember that old movie, the Steam, with Robert Newman? They ain't got nothing on the real con men, the Western countries. I mean, they, as you said, they back this stuff, and then Nixon and Kissinger pushed this petrodollar, and everybody got to buy. Oil is the engine of any economy. It's the main engine that pushes it. And so if everybody got to have dollar bills, then that means that it made themselves the reserve currency. They can print up money as much as they want, while other countries can't print up their money. And what happens is they can, like you said, the inflation, all of the ills of this Western society, they can spread it around to the whole planet. And that's what's going on now.
And not
China.
Not just that. I want to on what you just said. Not just that, but using the dollar as the world reserve currency and as the petrodollar, and meaning that you have to buy oil in dollars. That means that all transactions are monitored by the U.S. government, and they can tell you where this money went and where that money went, and so they can sanction it and take the value of that money away whenever they feel like it, reducing your reserves to less than what it's supposed to be, and also to creating inflation around the world, which causes overthrow of governments and destabilizations of governments and nations. Go ahead.
How many years have we been saying that the Asian nation should do what they did with the euro? Start you an Asian country, a currency of Asia, not back in Brussels or London or America. And you can do this, you can bypass there. We've been saying that for years. And it just dawned on them that maybe we should get a different reserve currency. Because as long as you in his system, he controls. As long as you accept his dollar, he can sanction you. So the smart thing to do is get off his dollar. Get off.
And that's what the world is doing.
Monetary system. Shun it. Shun it. Run it away. Because actually, monopoly money is more tangible than the American money, because they don't even use money no more. They just go on the computer and punch it on.
Yeah.
At least under the game Monopoly, you got something. But with the American system, you got, without any monetary, without any products that you produce, your money is worthless. All you're doing is just, well, what makes this dollar $100? Because I said so. What can I? It's a promissory note that I promised that I would give you something in return. Well, what if you don't have anything in return to give me?
Right.
So it shows you that the American system is crashing.
And see, and
Babylon the Great is falling.
And that's why she's so concerned with China, because she understands. See, as long as China was docile and bided its time, America, she said, okay, we're just gonna keep our eyes on her. But now China has built up not only the economic and political clout to rival America, but she's also built up the military muscle to not only rebuff, but if necessary, go on the offensive against the empire. And this is what America doesn't like, because it has everything to do with resources and currency matters. Check this out. China and the Asian organization, ASEAN. That's that's ASEAN, the organization, which comprises the biggest trading bloc on earth. That organization in China. They have been conducting a lot of their trade, most of their trade in Chinese yuan. This is a threat to dollar hegemony. China has been trading with the African bloc, which is the second, not Europe, but the African trade union. That is the second largest trading bloc on the planet. Most people don't realize that. They have been accepting yuan as payments. So, and now with the ruble getting in on it, this is weakening the dollar, right? This is weakening the dollar's position. This is weakening the euro position, because when you talk about the dollar, you talk also about the euro, because that's a contraption and an offshoot of the dollar. And you talk about the British pound. All three of those
All of them are part of that system that we were talking about.
Yes,
of monetary system.
Because the London Gold Exchange is the largest gold exchange, and they manipulate prices for gold. And the New York Exchange is tied to the London Exchange, and the Brussels and the European Union Exchange is tied to that. So when you
They're
have
all
this,
brothers among themselves,
right? And most people don't know this. That's why you see a precipitous drop in living standards in America, Europe, and the UK at the same time. You see a growing poverty in Europe, America, and Great Britain at the same time. You're seeing a crisis after crisis in each one of them, and all of the crises mirror each other. Why? Because they are interconnected. The markets are interconnected with each other. I'm talking about stock market, gold market, the trade, everything is interconnected.
When
and so
one
if one of them sneezes, the other one gets
sneezes,
cold.
everybody else catch cold.
That's right. And so again, the ASEAN is accepting yuan, and this is a threat to the dollar and dollar hegemony. Now, China, they understand, just like Peter Schiff understood, just like Jim Rogers understood, just like Gerald Celente understands, just like the other people understand, that, because most pundits say, well, if China gets out of line, we could just take their currency. Remember, they were talking about taking not honoring the currency reserve, the debt that they had to China. Remember that? Do you think the Chinese built up their economy and did not take this into consideration when they have a long view of everything? The Chinese started quietly buying gold through Shanghai, through Macau, and through Hong Kong, while it's against the law for them to mine gold in China, which is, I think, the number one or number two miner of gold in the world. It's against the law for them to export that gold. That has to be. So China tells the world publicly they only have 1,000 tons of gold. But all of these pundits, Peter Schiff, Jim Rogers, Gerald Celente, all of these people have done a estimate of what they see going through these markets that never leaves China, and they're saying that even outside of the China reserves, China has 40,000 tons of gold that they're not telling the people about. And on top of that, remember this, that the Chinese people themselves own gold. So that gives them a leg up. So if America, this is a hedge against the economic terrorism that Russia is now facing. You see, Russia lost $300-400 billion, but not really, because even though that is making the news and Russia is making a stink about it, Russia is doing that to gain sympathy of the world, and to also to let the world know that this could be you. Because after this took place, I want to say this, and then we can continue on this line of thinking. Vladimir Putin, I believe it was like a week or two after this took place, Vladimir Putin signed an order that he signed an order that I think it was the Commerce of Russia had to do the Finance Ministry of Russia had to do a audit on U.S. and Western assets in Russia. And they came to about 650 or $680 billion. And with a swipe of a pen, Vladimir Putin said that the assets cannot be transferred out of the country without presidential approval. So just like America took and Europe took 300, 400 billion, Russia is sitting on 680 billion. And if Russia just so decide to, they can do this. And what went under the radar is a few days ago, I believe it was Exxon, or it could have been one of the other U.S. oil companies. They had to exit Russia, and Russia paid them $1 for the assets that they had over there. And it was billions and billions and billions of dollars of assets. And this was done to show America that you too can be touched. But it did not make the news. It didn't make the news.
But what it is the arrogance of the guy on top. Well, what do you say? I am me and there's no other, right? How I am so full of myself that I can't see the what's happening to the next man. I'm thinking that I'm so great that that would never happen to me. I'll go over there and send somebody over there to do something to you. But whatever you can do to somebody else can do to you. That's the law of the system. You are not the exception of the rule, right? You're not.
Though you think you are.
You thinking that, you think that I'm the greatest thing that ever walked on the face of the earth. Other people walk on the earth just like you. And you're not an exception to the rule.
You know what it reminds me of? Nebuchadnezzar and Belshazzar in the Bible. Look what my hands have wrought. And America and the Western world mimics that. Look what my hands have wrought. I am, and there is none other. That's Nebuchadnezzar and Belshazzar. And within a twinkling of an eye, they lost everything. But listen,
what did the scriptures say about I'm the richest country on the planet Earth? What did the scriptures say about the richest guy on the planet Earth? What happened to him?
He's gonna be brought to the dust.
He was taken away.
He's gonna sit down and say, come down.
America's the richest, the greatest, the greatest thing that ever walked on the face of the earth.
Yeah.
And then from their own scriptures condemn them.
Yeah, it says, come down. God put he set him in the dust. He said, there's no throne for thee no more. Right? He removed the throne. See, America.
All your troublemaking.
Go ahead.
I said, all of your troublemaking around the planet Earth will come to a naught. It will be stopped. And then he will isolate you and then deal with you.
So look at this. Yeah, that's right. So look at this. Reef Omar says, the Rothschild issued people paper money in exchange for holding their gold in his banks. Now, I told you he's always on point. He said the people are stuck with worthless paper, and the Rothschild has all the gold. Criminality 101. Hashtag criminality 101.
Remember when the Rothschilds became rose to their prominence among the European society? It wasn't paper money. They were called the goldsmiths, right? And what it said, he who had the gold made the rules, right?
That's right. And I followed up.
They're sharper than the rest of them.
Yeah. I followed up Arif Omar's comment with this. Here it is. I said, because we were talking about capitalism. I said, it is the venom of the snake that is injected in the nations of the world, killing them slowly. That's what it is. Because they have injected these people with an idea. They have injected it with the propaganda, through the propaganda. Those are the fangs, the news organizations and stuff. Those are the fangs of the empire. And what they're doing, once they latch onto it, they inject you with this propaganda and you believe this foolishness. And what they do, they tell you, okay, I want you to look up there. And all while they're stealing the assets up under your feet. And the world is waking up to these
the three-card Molly, brother. The three-card, the shell game. Oh, where the pin? Is in his hand. He done conned you. That's exactly what he done. He done made a fool out of you and ripping you off, and he really gives you the like magic, make you think you have something when in reality you have nothing. That's exactly what he's doing. And as long as he can play that game on you, he wins.
Right.
The rest
And
of the,
again,
like I said, the rest of the nation,
they're waking up to it. They're waking up to it. Revo once said, it's the most wicked system, talking about capitalism, ever conceived, and the devil runs it with such brilliance and precision. Another quote he has up here, it says, dollar hegemony is economic financial terrorism. That is exactly right. And so going back to what I was saying about the China's hedge against economic terrorism. Well, if you got gold, if you got silver, if you got the copper reserves, if you got the oil reserves, if you got the gas, if you got all of these not international, but internation trade between nation and nation contracts. And if you built up the political cloud and you have allies, sincere allies, because they saw you help them when they didn't have nothing, you didn't hardly benefit from them because you didn't offer us, tell us we had to cut spending for this, but we got to up spending for military for you now. So these people, when America tries this economic terrorism with China, it's going to backfire. You see what happened to Trump. Listen, when Trump implemented that trade war against China, and they wind up starting to pay $7 to $10 billion more in trade to China because Trump interjected and pushed this trade war against China. They wind up losing billions more.
As you were saying, that the empire, the media is the fangs of an illusion. What makes their money more important than your money? Right?
Right. Perception.
What makes their money? Well, I'll give you a perfect. Iran don't have any money at all. Iran can. Same thing with Russia and China. They can print up all of their money that they want. You mean they don't have none of your money? And your money will. That's right. They will never get anything of value in return by giving the empire all of their natural resources. Once upon a time, the empire was not so political savvy. She didn't bribe leaders, and so she just took it. That was called the colonial age, when he went in and raped and robbed the whole planet Earth so they can live in that garden of theirs, right? Yeah. Now she can't come out with a barrel of a gun and slap people across the head, pow, and take their natural resources. Now she got to be a little bit more tactful.
Human rights,
because she sees
somebody
else is yeah, she got somebody else is just as big and as bad as she is. China's economic power with Russia's military, as one of the pundits say, is an unstoppable juggernaut. She's fighting a losing battle.
And I want to bring something. My personal belief, my personal opinion, from me watching this stuff play out over the years, I believe that when China invested that $1.5 trillion in the U.S. economy, I think they did that believing that maybe that would be taken from them, so they hedged the bet with the gold and the silver. And they did that as not to alert the United States that they had a better plan. See, America feels as long as she can take something from you, she can keep you subjected to her. So I believe China put that amount of money into America to keep their guard down while they built up their military clout, while they built up their political position, and while they built up enough reserves to offset any losses by a Western theft through sanctions and stuff like that. And think about this. If America does sanction China and go to war with China, nobody ever talks about this part here. They talk about China may deny access to Taiwan from U.S. military. The U.S. military say, well, we can do this and we can do that. But nobody says, how long can you do it? Because China produces 95 to 97% of everything on your shelves. And they produce your military uniforms, the computer boards for your weapons, your chips for your weapons. They do all of this. So if China was to turn the spigot off, how long could you prosecute a war with China? Say for instance,
Also,
hold on. Let's just give them this. Let's just say America military. Let's just give them this part. Let's say America's military is a little bit more dominant than the Chinese military. Again, I ask you, how long could you prosecute a war with a near peer or a peer militarily, and they control the spigot to the most vital stuff of your military? And China has a 90 to 92% control over all rare earths, which America needs for all of her military. So if they cut the spigot off, what are you gonna do?
also,
Nobody thought about that. Go ahead.
China owns also that garden depends on China.
Yeah.
All of her allies, all of them, depend on Chinese goods.
Yep. And China.
What do they call it? The so-called First Nations. All of them goods depend on China. Australia, New Zealand, Canada, America, and that garden in Europe. What happens if you go to war with China and China stops sending you all of your goods? No ships, right? What happens?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. And Reef Omar, he brought another good point. I'm telling you, he's killing it. Every time he's on in the chat room, he's killing it. I'm telling you this. He says back in the 90s, the stock market was saturated with the sale of quote unquote corporate commercial paper. And people invested billions in that financial garbage. And that's why they wind up losing billions, because they invested billions in that garbage.
It's always a scheme, an illusion to make you think you have something. Like I said, magic, when you actually have nothing. It's That's all it is. It's an illusion, a scheme to steal money from the sucker. America's a giant con man standing around the planet, conniving, scheming, hoodwinking, bluffing, and bullying everybody around the world. He's like the Wizard of Oz, right? The great big old deal out on the behind the curtain, and then when you get behind it, he's a little bitty guy, real little bitty guy. Just pulling a con on everybody.
Yeah, but I mean, it is what it is. And what we're trying to do, see, you can go to all alternative platforms. You can go to all other media, whether it's mainstream or alternative. Notice that we touch on points that none of them talk about. I don't know if it's purposely omissions by them, or if they just don't know or don't have an in-depth analysis or understanding of certain things like this, because you don't hear this anywhere. When have you heard about somebody tying the pipeline in Uganda to the Chinese-U.S. tensions and the Russia-Ukraine NATO tensions? And it's obvious. It's obvious to us. But it seems like either they are purposely omitting these things because maybe it's not important to them, or maybe it's not something that they care to talk about because it doesn't yet affect them, which it does. They just don't know it. Or maybe everybody who say they're alternative media is not alternative media. Maybe they have, maybe they are psyops or something like that. And up here, go to these pages. We're not off the air yet, but I just want you to go to these pages, sign up for them. Please support the grind. I mean, Twitch, go to the Twitch, go to Odyssey, go to Twitter, go to Rumble. You know, Twitter erased all of our subscribers, and I didn't even know it until one of our guests contacted me. He said, "Hey, Rashid," he said, "You know, I went to Twitter to check out some of the stuff on there." He said, "Do you know you don't have any subscribers? They even unsubscribed to me." I was like, "Huh?" So, and this was Charles Dunaway. And I was like, "What?" He said, "You need to go check over there. They had erased everybody, unsubscribed everybody off Twitter, you know." But it's okay. Also go to Rumble, The full Rumble address is not up there, but go to Rumble and look for the Red Pill Diaries. We're on there. We're on Locals. You can go to Locals. The address is up here. You can go to Patreon. Patreon is very cheap. We give you audio, videos, interviews, and articles of breaking news. Matter of fact, we give you some stuff that you haven't even heard on other so-called Patreon or exclusive platforms. It's very affordable, a few bucks. That's all. But and also it's some free stuff on the Patreon too. Go to the Locals, join the Locals, empowermentoftruth.locals.com, and then you can become a member of the Red Pill community and write your own articles. Be a part of the movement to get truth out to people. Okay, support us, and do this. Because right now we should be sitting on thousands and thousands of subscribers, but every time we get 10 subscribers, YouTube takes 9. They texted us like Uncle Sam text you on your check. But Rashid, on this matter, and I know we won't be much longer on the air, but on this matter of the capitalistic system and what you see transpiring in the Ukraine between the US and Russia and NATO and Russia, what do you think is coming next?
War.
What do you think is
It's the only
coming
thing
next?
it could be. You have, in the old feudal system, you have a baron, Russia, is bucking up against the king, the empire. And they must clash with one another. They must, because the empire is not going to take a second spot to the baron. And the baron said, "Well, I can't live under your rule." We had was looking at some of the headlines, and they was talking about the Russian 300,000 troop pull up. It's actually going to be 1.2 million. It's escalating, and then if Russia escapes, then the other baron over there, China, say, "Well, why should I listen to you?" And then the little bitty baron, Iran, say, "I shouldn't listen to you either." And it's a domino effect. Everybody want to get off to, and then when the deal go down, the empire is a little bitty guy behind the curtain with no power at all. So he can't stand that, and he threatens the entire world to keep his hegemony going. Right? He threatens if I can't rule, I will kill everybody. And isn't that the mind of a sociopath? Isn't that the mind of the empire? If he can't rule,
that's their stated doctrine. That's their stated doctrine.
Yeah.
Mutually assured destruction.
Yeah.
If I can't rule, I'm killing everybody.
Right? And if it's the understanding of a madman, because if you kill everybody, then there's nobody. They had that. You seen that video with ACO? You know what one I'm talking about?
Yeah.
She had a town meeting, and then the guy get up and said, "If everybody is dead."
What
Who cares?
What you know, saving the environment if everybody's dead?
Everybody is dead.
Yeah. We are watching the collapse of the Western world.
And those that do
America
not adhere
and the West are putting on a show.
If those who do not adhere and adherence, they're gonna be doomed.
Yeah.
America and
I'm telling you.
as we were saying, this is all in scripture. It talks about a war of Armageddon or a Malhammer. The people did not understand why this was to take place until this day and time. You got a sociopathic empire who wants, if he can't rule, he'll kill everybody. That's the reason why this war must be brought to, is to take down his power to rule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Every
And
government
and
on the
how do you
planet is
break?
corrupt.
I'm sorry, we're having a second delay. I don't know what's going on with the streaming, but we're having a few seconds delay in talking and listening or whatever. But let me tell you something. How do you think that this thing is going down? And I'm being rhetorical here. How do you think this thing is going down? How can you break America and the Western world's power to rule? You go after the trade. You break their trade.
That's right.
If they don't have
That's the first
the
thing
money
you
coming
do.
in, if they don't have the money coming in, how can you support the military? And if you can't support the military, you can't push your foreign policy goals on the world. So the first thing to do is break the trade. What is going on right now? What preceded this thing with the conflict in Ukraine? There was an economic onslaught threatened against Russia and China. And then America implemented policy to provoke China and Russia. And Russia and China are reacting. And so now you're seeing the little nations who were once scared, now they are standing up to the empire and they're saying, we're going with the global south. We're going with this new fair world order, this new world that's emerging. We're tired of this unfair, hypocritical, and sociopathic, and I call it a succubus world, or because that's what it is, or parasitic world. Because if you look at the nature of the Western system, and Gregory Manarino, he made this abundantly clear on this show before. The investor Gregory Manarino, go to Trader's Choice, support him, click his link, sign up to his channel. He talked about and this man is in finance. He's in the market. He served in the military, all of this stuff, and he makes a lot of money in the markets. He said that the system is parasitic. And I said, Greg, that's what I was saying. And so he said, for it to exist, it must continue to feed on others. It must feed on more and more debt, meaning more and more misery of other people in order to go. And it must expand, but the more expansion that it takes, the more debt it takes on. The more debt it takes on, the more it expands, but it continues. And like a balloon, when you put the helium in or you blow it up, it does like this. And when it reaches its stretching point, it pops. And that's what we are. We're in that point right before the skin pops. What you say?
It's like a vampire, right? It's like a vampire, right? Once he sucks all of the blood, he got to keep getting new victims to stay alive.
That's right.
And his system is set to crash because you can only take so. Once you kill everybody, everybody is dead. And this is what's happening with his monetary system. He have to keep sucking life blood out of everyone, or else he gonna die.
Yes, sir. Let me see. Let me highlight Reef. So I'm gonna put this up here, and I'm gonna say this too. I don't know if you can see it up there. Let me highlight it. Something's going on with okay, there we are. Now listen. Let me say this to you all that are listening, because I know the time is short. We will be going on later in the evening tomorrow, 2:30 Eastern time tomorrow. We will be having formal UN's weapon inspector, Scott Ritter, on the show. He's a former colonel in the Marine, and he in the Marines, U.S. Marines, and he is the one who verified that Saddam Hussein had disarmed his chemical weapons, right? So most people can say that he's a patriot, right? So we'll have him on tomorrow, God willingly. It has been confirmed. If something goes wrong, it's not on our part. We want to let you know that right now. It's not on our part. Sometimes YouTube messes with things, and like Rashid, when I sent him the link at 10, Rashid, we were talking about this after the show yesterday. I sent him the link at like 10 something. I sent him before that. He never got the ones before. So while I was live on the air with Scott with Larry Johnson, Rashid was texting me. Yeah, it was Larry Jones. And Rashid was texting me, so I was sending him the link. And he was like, brother, I'm not getting the link. I said, I'm sending it. So I'm showing him I'm sending it. So finally he went in and found a real old link and got on the live show. And after the show was over, he and I were talking. He was like, I never got that link. He said, let me show you. And as soon as he picked up his phone lit up and the link came through. I sent it to him at 10. Yeah, 2 hours. I sent it to him at 10:12. He got it at 12:57. So I mean, this is what we go through behind.
And you know, an email is supposed to be once it's sent, you're supposed to have it. But
right.
This email was held from
him. and we laughed about it. But yeah, we'll have Scott Ritter on, and I advise everybody to look at the bottom of that screen what Reef Omar said up there. But on that note, Rashid, do you have anything concerning the economic plight that America is going to suffer, that she is suffering, and that she, like I said, that she's going to suffer, and that the Western world is going to suffer before we close up?
Everything is being brought by her own hands. Remember that. All that she is suffering is by what she did. Look at what she done to herself. Nobody didn't force her to be what she is. She is what she is. Right?
Mm-hmm. So on that note, listen, remember to join us at 2:30 Central Time, which will be 3:30 Eastern Time. Tomorrow we'll have former UN's weapon inspector and former colonel in the U.S. Marine Forces, Scott Ritter, on the show. Tell a friend, tell somebody in your family, bring them. Let's pack the house. Let's show some respect. And listen, your questions and things that you have to say, we're going to post them. Also, if you want to, we have if you want to donate, we have Cash App, and you can find it on the Cash App. I don't even have the thing on me, because we're not even about money, so we don't usually put anything up there. But Reef gives donations, so if you want to, you can donate. We'll put the Cash App up tomorrow on the show, or you can do the PayPal if you like. But we just appreciate that you're listening. That's the main thing. We want you to listen to the truth. We're not about all of this money and stuff, but money does help keep the shows and stuff going and the website's up. And we just thank you for your presence today. And as always, we always have to say this and end it. Stay strong, stay true, but above all things, stay righteous. I love you, mama. Peace to all of you all.